Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Phi Beta Mu Delta Chapter Legacy Project. We are pleased to welcome today Mr. Zachary Harris. Mr. Harris, how are you today?
I'm fine. How about you?
We are doing just fine. I appreciate you taking the time to be a part of this. So, just a little bit about the project. This project is an initiative of the Delta chapter of Phi Beta Mu to try to preserve the history and the impact of the legendary band directors in Mississippi. And my name is Craig Arhus. I'm a member of the Delta chapter. I'm a past president, and I'm very happy to be involved in working on this project. So by documenting the experiences of these directors, we're not only trying to honor their contributions to music education, but also ensure that future generations of band directors can draw inspiration from their dedication and commitment to excellence. These directors that we're featuring have shaped countless lives through their leadership and passion, and their stories deserve to be celebrated as a cornerstone of Mississippi's legacy in music education. And I'm very pleased to have Mr. Harris with us. Just a little bit about Mr. Harris, for those of you who may not know about his distinguished career. He taught for 31 years in Mississippi. He's a native of Jackson and has degrees in music education from Mississippi Valley State and also from the University of Mississippi. He started his career in Newton and then moved on to Forest Hill and to Brookhaven before spending the last 10 years of his career in Gulfport. And a few highlights from his Gulfport tenure include the performance at the State Band Clinic in 2008 and the performance at the 2016 Music for All National Concert Festival in Indianapolis, which at the time it was the first band from Mississippi to be invited to that prestigious event. On the last performance, the last concert with the Gulfport Band, the mayor of Gulfport presented him with a proclamation declaring it Zachary Harris Day for his contributions to that community. He also worked on the Mississippi Lions Band staff, and his bands earned consistent superior ratings in marching band, concert band, and sight reading. And even in retirement, he continues to be active serving the music community as a part-time instructor at William Carey University in Hattiesburg. So, Mr. Harris, welcome. Thank you again for being part of this. I have now talked too long, and I'm ready to start hearing some of your story. So let's just start off by talking about how you got your start in music.
Well, in my neighborhood, I'm the youngest of four brothers, and two of my older brothers were in band, and most of the students on my street or in my surrounding streets were in band. Believe it or not, they were not athletes. They were not they were in band, and so I would come home when I was in elementary school, and I would hear my brothers in there practicing and playing their instruments and stuff. And I said, "Wow, I want to do this." And so I that's how I got started. And my seventh grade year, my middle school band director wanted to start me on trumpet, but unfortunately, my family could not afford to purchase an instrument because my other two brothers all played on school instruments. One of them played the euphonium, and the other one played the French horn.
Mhm.
And so, my seventh grade year, I was not able to start band. And at the end of the seventh grade, my middle school director came and found me, and he asked me, he said, if you can purchase, you think your parents can purchase a mouthpiece, and I can start you on baritone.
All right.
And so I started at eighth grade. So I was a year late actually starting band. And so I had a lot of catching up to do. But
Sure.
fortunately, I had my oldest brother. He played baritone as well. So I would come home and practice with him and try to get caught up and learn the things that I need to learn.
Well, that's great. The influence of family. How about that? We sometimes, I know I tell my older brother, I said, excuse me, my oldest son, I said, you never know, how what you're doing is impacting your younger sister. And I think that's, a case for you. Your older siblings being in band was a big part of your decision to get into music as well. And starting a year late, that can certainly that can be a barrier for some folks. But I'm sure you had no trouble catching up because it sounded like something you were ready to go and
Yeah,
start doing from the
yeah.
outset. That's great. So, moving along through high school and different high school experiences, eventually you made the decision to study music education in college. So, tell us a little bit about how you ended up as a music education major at Mississippi Valley.
It's funny how it happened. There, some of my close friends were in band, and one of them, who's now a percussion instructor at Bethune-Cookman University, uh, his father was a graduate of Mississippi Valley State University.
Okay.
And so Pedro called me one day and said, "Hey, the band director from Valley is at the house. He wants to meet you."
All
And
right.
so he contacted me, uh, Dr. Rick Fleming, who is now at Buffalo State University. We all went to school together, and another one of my high school students. He called us over there, and the band director got to talking to us, and he said, "Look, I don't even have to audition you guys. I'm going based off of Dan Ory's recommendation that you all are good students." And he said, "We want you at Mississippi Valley State, and we can offer you a full scholarship."
Wow.
And so, me coming up and knowing how my father was, he was great. But if I had stayed at home and went to Jackson State, which is where I wanted to go, I would have had to work while going to school, because my father was the type where if you're living at the house after a certain age, you're gonna have to contribute.
I
so
see. Yeah, I
so
see.
I
I
said,
see.
all right, I get to go, I get to get away from home. I
Mhm.
get to kind of learn things on my own, because at that time when I was in high school, my mother stopped working. And so she was taking care of a lot of the things that I needed to learn how to do.
Right.
And so we, the four of us, went to Valley. All
Mhm.
four of us majored in music, and right now three of us are still are still
Yeah.
doing it, and everything. So that's how I got started in college. I didn't know anything about Mississippi Valley State, but
Mhm.
once I got there, it was incredible, because of the professors that truly cared about the students,
Mhm.
and it meant a lot. It meant a lot. So that's how I got started on going to college.
Well, the offer of a full scholarship would be difficult for any student to turn down. It's, even today. I mean, that's and the fact that your reputation and that of your friends was such that the director didn't feel the need to even audition. He's like, yeah, we want these guys to come
Right.
on.
Right.
And then the fact that so many of you, the three of the four of you, are continuing to this day to be involved in music education, that speaks to, it seems like even though you didn't know much about Valley, it seems like once you got there, it was the right fit. It was the
It
right
was.
place.
It was perfect.
And
Perfect fit.
yeah, and you
Perfect fit.
find that space, as a college student, that's a great thing, because then that's when you can flourish. If you feel
Yeah.
like you're in the right place, then that's where you can flourish. And it certainly seems like that was the case for you. So, you go on, you finish your degree in music education, and you start your teaching career. And I'm sure, like all of us, those first few years of teaching I'm sure it shares of ups and downs as we all try to navigate the profession and figure out what we're doing, what we know, what we don't know, which typically is a lot more that we don't know than we know. At least that was the case for me. So I just wondered if you would just share a story from your early years of teaching, and how that a good thing, a challenging thing, something that is just particularly memorable for you, and how that story came to pass.
Well, it was my first year at Newton. I was the assistant director. And back then, that was in 1986. So we were still doing uh, our state evaluation, all of it in the spring.
Okay.
And so when I say that, the young the young educators now, they don't
I don't know.
understand that. So we would have to go back out and start learning or relearning the
Mhm.
show starting on March 4th. And so every year that would be during the time of our state marching evaluation, along with concert and sight reading. It would always be during the Easter time, and we would get that Easter snap of a cold front coming in.
Okay.
My first year going to state evaluation, um, we're out there and we're doing a tropical show. The students are dressed in Hawaiian shirts on the front sideline. We had the steel drum, we had the palm trees, and all of that. Well, there was a cold front that came through, a massive cold front that year, and it got so bad that at state marching evaluation, the head physician at the Baptist Hospital came to Hines Community College and stopped the performances
Oh my goodness.
because there was so many students being taken to the
Oh my
hospital
gosh.
for frostbite or
Oh my
hypothermia
goodness.
and things like that. It was unbelievable, and I'm sitting there on the sideline and I'm watching my students perform the front ensemble, and they're shivering
Sure,
because
sure.
they had on shorts and Hawaiian shirt, and I said, "Oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into?" you
Wow,
know?
I could the visual of that is quite stunning when you think about the tropical show and
Yeah,
all the props and designs that go along with that, and then that with the students physically freezing to death. Now that's a great story to share. Now I suspect it was probably a little more serious as it was happening. You're like, oh my goodness, this
yeah.
doctor has come down.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and it was something because that was the last year that we actually did
Oh wow,
marching in the spring,
wow.
and it was because of those reasons that
Mm.
of that, and as well as trying to having to go back out and reteach the marching show during
Right.
concert season, which is almost unheard of now,
Right,
uh,
right.
so
Sounds
yeah,
strange now. I know it was common, it was just the way that things were done in Mississippi for so many years, but it's been, long enough now that it does seem very foreign to think about that
yes,
at this time. But boy, I can imagine that was probably a challenging day for a lot of folks, but especially the students in the shorts and the Hawaiian shirts. But
yeah.
it certainly makes for a great story now.
Yeah, it does, and there were ups and downs about it. A lot of band directors wanted to continue what we were doing the way, they don't want change, but in the long run, it's for the best because we had to do inspection as well. We had to go and
Right.
stand out on the track and at attention while the judge would come out and inspect the uniform, they would inspect the instruments, they would do all of those things, and so they quickly put a stop to that in the
Mhm.
late 80s, early 90s. They stopped that because a lot of the superintendents of the school districts would start complaining that the, the bands are not being judged, the district is being judged, and we can't afford to
Oh,
have new instruments and new uniforms and all of that. So that they quickly put a stop to that.
well, that's probably a session that would be good to do just to have a number of directors like you and others who taught during that era of
Yeah,
Mississippi bands and talk about some of the stories of the spring process from the marching band through the concert band and all. That would be an interesting thing to document, just to because me as someone who's not native to the state, I've heard stories about this from
right.
now from you and from many others through the years. But it might be good to just have folks just talk about, what all would go on about that. Because I think you're right. I think for a lot of younger directors, it'd be like, wow, that is really strange to hear because it's different from what we do today.
Yeah, yeah.
So so moving on, just kind of thinking, a long and successful career in a number of schools in Mississippi. It might be hard to come up with this, but what is something that you would consider your most rewarding moment of your career as a band director?
I, I would say being inducted into the Phi Beta Mu Hall of Fame.
Mm.
It was without a doubt the most rewarding, having to think about your colleagues respect you enough for the work that you've done to want to consider you to be put in the elite group.
Mhm.
And it was mind blowing when I got the call, and I was like, who, me? you
Right,
know. But
right,
out of all the things that I've done, that was the most rewarding because of the fact that it was voted on by my colleagues.
right.
And so I treasure that day. I treasure that moment. And and a lot of times I still pinch myself and say, do I really belong? you know,
Oh,
you
well,
know,
for any of our listeners who may not be familiar with the Phi Beta Mu Hall of Fame in Mississippi, if you look at the list and you read the bios of all the people who are included, it is a who's who of the best in the Mississippi band world. And Mr. Harris, there's no doubt you are a worthy recipient of that award, and I can see where that would be a very rewarding moment of your career. Because like you said, you don't, you don't nominate nobody, you don't nominate yourself, you don't pay to get in. Your colleagues nominated you and then
right,
said, absolutely,
right,
this is someone whose career has distinguished itself
yeah,
tremendously. And so
yeah,
that's great. That's great. Very well deserved for sure.
yeah. And my mentors, all the directors that I used to call and talk and ask questions, because we didn't have what we have now with the technology to where we can go and Google and figure out how to tune a oboe. So
Right.
we would get on the phone and we would call each other. And those were my mentors, like Badre Hanna and
Sure.
Glenn Buckaloo and Gary Cook and all of those. And so for you to be considered in the similar or same class as
Right.
them, I mean, it's an honor. I'm just, still shocked and very appreciative of my colleagues, recognizing me.
Well, it is a very worthy honor, and I'm glad that you shared that because that is an important milestone in your career and in the careers of those who have been selected to that Hall of Fame. So, Attorney, before we move on to the kind of next generation stuff, let's just kind of stay in this same area for just a minute. Is there a particular performance or event that stands out to you in your career as something that was particularly meaningful?
It, it, it was two. There were two. It
Mhm.
was when we had the opportunity to perform at the Music for All National Concert Festival, and representing Mississippi and being the first band from Mississippi that had been invited to perform there. It stood out above a lot of the other performances that we participated in, and allowing those students to have that opportunity to be able to play on the stage with
Mhm.
elite concert programs.
Right.
If I could share a quick story,
Sure.
we had to travel overnight to get to Indianapolis. And when we got there, the students were exhausted, and then we had some delay in getting our hotel rooms, and then we had to go and do um, a master class that
Mhm.
evening and everything. And so the students were kind of exhausted. And so that next morning, we went in to listen at some of the other concert performances, and we were up in the balcony, and the students were up there getting comfortable because I think they felt like they were going to catch them a quick nap, because it had been a long evening. And with that first band that morning start playing, you could see my students sitting up, eyes wide open, and just looking. And one student came to me and said, Mr. Harris, we're not in Mississippi anymore, are we? I said, I said, no. I said, but guess what? You all belong here.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
belong here. And they sat there and we had to listen to three performances.
Hmm.
There was not a sleepy eye in there. They were listening, and they were observing, and they felt like this is something great for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to sit and listen to those caliber bands and realize, hey, wait, we belong here. We're a part of this group. Somebody's going to be up here in this balcony listening to us
Right,
and
right,
having the
right.
same types of reactions as they hear our band play. And
Yeah,
yeah, that's pretty special. I could, being the first band from Mississippi to do that, that was because that is an elite performance opportunity, and it's
right,
one that's
right,
only given to a very select group of bands who have earned it through their performance. And I can see where that would be a very memorable event for you and for the students. I'm sure the students that were in that band, now that they've grown, and some are I'm sure band directors, and some are continuing to be musical consumers in some way. They're still taking music. I'm sure they look back on that with similar fondness
Yeah,
to what you just expressed, because that was
yeah,
a credible opportunity for those students.
right. It was, and it's something I always remember, and I do share with some of my former students that were on that stage, that year, and we talk about that a lot of times, and talk about how we prepared to go there. Having rehearsals during the summer,
Right,
because that performance was in February,
right.
and so we had to get prepared for it. But
Yeah, don't
yeah,
just come back after Christmas and get it all together for
no,
that performance. So that's
no,
take a little
unfortunately
bit
not.
more time.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, Mr. Harris, you're still involved in the music education community in retirement, working at William Carey University. So the next question, just is what advice would you share with the next generation of music educators?
Uh, as fast paced as the band world, the music world is now, with all the extra activities that are involved, my advice is to make sure that you still have and spend time with your family.
Mm,
Don't overdo it. Don't, because burnout is real, and trying to chase the goal sometimes is not good for your family.
mhm,
And so that is one of the advice, is making sure that uh, you make sure that you have time and you spend time with your family.
mhm,
And people ask me, how were you able to do this for 31 years? And I said, well, I tried to not take my work home all the time. And I tried to make sure that I would spend time with my family. Fortunately, both my daughters were in band, and
yeah.
so we were able to spend time together a lot, even when we were traveling and doing things with the band program. But it's important that you don't really overdo too much, to where you when you look back, you regret that you didn't spend enough time with your own children or own family.
Mhm,
And then the second advice is making sure that you find mentors. As
mhm,
a young director, you need to have somebody that you can just talk to about the career that you're involved in. Because at the end of the day, your decisions is not just based on you, but it's based on the students, it's based on the school district, and it's based on the community and parents. And so making sure that you have a mentor that you can call, or you can invite
mhm,
up to your band hall and just sit down and talk about the things that's gonna everyday things that you need to know about. Had not been for Badri Hannah, first started teaching DP Hawkins, and we would just talk about different things that helped me to become a better educator. And he would always say, consider the students when you make decisions.
mhm,
Don't play literature that you like, but play literature that fits your ensemble, that your students are going to be able to do. And so having that mentor and those mentor teas to where it helped me when I had a bad day, I could call people and talk to them, and they would just kind of talk me off the ledge.
sure.
Yeah. So those are the two things that I think that are really important, that I would like to just leave to the young directors.
I'm going to ask you to just repeat the list of mentors that you said a minute ago, only because there was a brief interruption in the connection on my end. And I heard you mentioned Badre Hannah, and then it cut out for a next about 5 seconds. So I want to make sure you had a chance to mention those people and make sure we got it on the recording.
Yes, Badre Hannah, Glenn Buckaloo. When I went to Gulfport from Brookhaven, totally different environment,
Mhm.
living on the coast versus living in a small community. And he helped me tremendously. Uh, DP Hawkins, when I first
Mhm.
started teaching, he was at North Pike High School. His program was about the same size as mine. And so we talked all the time,
Yeah.
bringing Gary Cook in to listen at my band. And he would always say, Zach, your band is not as bad as it sounds. And then he would start smiling. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Hopefully you're joking. But having those people that I could depend on and call and just talk to,
Yeah.
it's very important.
Well, I think you brought up two very important things for young directors. The whole work-life balance is something that we all struggle with, and to hear from you, to encourage directors to do that, not always just be chasing the next thing, but to realize that yes, it'll be on your desk in the morning when you get back. That's important. And then the second part about the mentoring is so important. And I sometimes I think for younger directors, the hardest thing to do is to make that first step and to call that person because, just sometimes it doesn't feel right. Maybe I'm not being successful. Why would I have to call anybody? But the truth is, we've all done that. We've all had those conversations with important people in our lives that have helped us grow as teachers and helped our bands get better through that mentorship.
Yeah. 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 Don't wait until you think your band is ready before you call people in
Yeah.
to come and listen. You need to call them in early enough to where if they do have some suggestions on changing some things, you have time to change it.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times we, as young directors, it's like you said, we are afraid of what someone may say. But how do
Mhm.
you learn if you don't? I mean, that's the whole purpose of doing the assessment in the first place,
Right.
to go out and get some positive feedback or some things that you can come back in and learn from to help improve um, your craft. So yes, having that and calling them in early enough to come in and listen and work with your program is so important.
Yeah, and directors are willing to do that. They're willing to. It's not the band profession's not this closed society where I've got all my secrets and I'm not going to share anything with you. I think most directors with experience are more than happy to pay it forward because they received the same type of mentoring when they were young. So that's like I
Right.
said, the first step, and that's excellent advice, Mr. Harris. I appreciate you sharing that. Is there anything else that you wanted to share in this visit that we didn't cover?
Uh, I think we covered most of it.
Yeah.
I'm honored that when you hear the word legend,
Yeah.
you're saying, wait a minute, they're definitely not talking about me, but I'm just honored to be a part of this. I think it's so important for the young music educators to have the resources to where they can go and listen and
Mm,
just hear some of the things that we did, the doors that we opened
right.
for them to be able to be where they are now. And it's important to me. That's why I'm still doing this. This is year
Yeah.
38 total for me, and I thought I was going to be at home fishing, every day, but but God was not through with me yet. He was like, "Look, we need to go ahead and do some more things." So I'm just honored to be a part of this, and I think this is great.
Well, the word legend definitely applies here, Mr. Harris. I really appreciate you spending time sharing your stories of your early your involvement in music, your work in college, your work throughout your career. And I hope that the folks who watch this have learned a little bit more about you and your impact that you've had on the state as a band director and continue to have as an instructor at William Carey. So thank you very much for spending time today, and we appreciate all the work that you have done over your career for the students and the teachers in Mississippi.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day.